me, Pussycat. Welcome to my channel. My name's Emma Cownley and I am a freelance copywriter and blogger, and today I'm going to be tackling an issue that I don't see covered very often in the freelance community or here on YouTube. Maybe I didn't look hard enough, I don't know, but I thought that it was a pretty important thing for me to discuss, and that is managing your freelance business when you're going through a period of grief and loss. Perhaps you're dealing with serious illness or the death of a loved one, and you really have no fucking idea whether there's any support or help for you financially or through the government, and how you should really kind of move forward with regard to managing client relationships or your workload. And so I thought that I'd cover it here. If you're watching this video because you yourself are going through a really difficult period of grief and loss, then I just wanted to start this video by saying I'm really, really sorry that this is happening to you. I mean, nobody ever wants these kinds of things to happen, but the fact of the matter is they do. If you don't follow me on social media, you may not know that about 3 months ago, at the time of filming, my mum passed away. She had been diagnosed with a terminal form of cancer at the beginning of May, and I lost her at the end of July. So it was a really short period of time, and I did have some warning, and I went away to the internet to research what I could do with regard to my business, and kind of came up pretty short. The articles I did find, I'll link for you below just so that you can check that out as well. So that's why I decided to make this, because between my mum passing and the time of filming, 2 other freelancers that I know have lost close family members. And so I thought I'd better hurry up and get a move on with this video so people can actually use it and get help and support from it, even though it may be a little bit too close to the time of my grief in which to make this video. But I found out very quickly that trying to help other people one-on-one when I'm still in the grieving process, it's a bit too soon. So I'll make a video and then hopefully that can help other people rather than me trying to do it myself. So first up, I was in a pretty unique situation in that I had some forewarning that things were going to get difficult quite soon. As I mentioned, my mum was diagnosed in May, and I kind of thought that we would have a bit more time, but she was in hospital the next month and only spent 2 weeks in hospital before she was moved to a hospice. And doctors were kind of saying that things were going downhill really, really quickly. So I knew that I had to start looking at ways to make sure that my business was not going to cause me any extra stress in what was an incredibly difficult time already. So what I did was I went straight to my freelance community. I'm part of a group on Discord, an invite-only group on Discord, and it's a group of people that I feel very safe with. So I felt that I was able to be a bit more vulnerable, and I kind of went into the group chat, into the help channel, and I said, look guys, here's the situation. It really doesn't look good, and I want to know who among you would be available to take last minute ad hoc work if the worst happens unexpectedly and I'm halfway through something. Can I take a list of names that I can pass on to my clients so that when it happens, I can forward the list on and kind of step back and feel confident that my clients are being taken care of and I'm not leaving anybody in the lurch with regard to work. And they came through magnificently. I got a list of maybe like 15 or 20 freelancers who were happy to step in and cover for me. So I just took their name, website, email address, and just kind of filed those away in a draft email so that I could fire those off last minute if I needed to. It was really nice because it felt like I had hundreds of colleagues that were there to check in on me regularly, find out how I was doing. So I strongly would recommend, even if you have just a couple of freelance friends, or you're comfortable to put it out on social media maybe, or if you are part of a freelance community and you're in a situation like this and things aren't looking good and you do have warning, to go and let them know and say that this is what's up and I need people to cover me last minute, who's available. And if you don't have anything like that at the moment, I would strongly, strongly recommend that you connect with freelance communities. They're not your competition. They are your biggest allies, your biggest supporters. You cannot be freelance without having freelance colleagues. So I've done a whole video on it, which I'll link for you below, of how you can connect with your freelance community. But that's one of the first things I did, not just because I wanted the support, but also because I needed compassionate leave cover, and I wanted to make sure that I was getting consent from the names I was putting forward to my clients. The next thing I did was to make sure that all of my retainer clients were aware of what was happening, just because if deadlines are slipping, work quality is dropping, or I'm not available or in the office when they need me, they need to understand why that is. I need them to know that I'm not shit, and I need them to kind of have an expectation as to how work will be for the short-term future. So I just fired off a quick email to say, look guys, this is the situation. Things are all right at the moment, but pretty soon I may need to go on compassionate leave. Can you please let me know what you have coming up so that I can either find cover or make sure that I'm getting it done now while I'm here, so that nobody is left kind of stuck without any copy. Another thing I also did, and this is again because I had warning that things were going to be bad, is that I pipelined all of my own marketing, all of my newsletters, blog posts, these videos here. I made sure that there was a healthy pipeline so that when I did take time off, my business marketing didn't suffer, but at the same time, I didn't have to think about it. I pipelined everything, scheduled all the promotion for it, and just let it go, which is probably why you may have noticed, for the eagle-eyed among you, that a couple of weeks ago I did miss a video for the first time in 6 years, and that's because my video pipeline had run out and I really didn't feel capable of making a video, and I didn't. And I think that there is a period of time through the summer, like in July, where you can actually see that I look like fucking shit in all my videos because I'm dealing with a very difficult time, but I'm trying my best to get on with it. And so I just look. Probably it's because I know myself and I know how I look when I'm not 100%. I can tell that I'm not right in those videos. Maybe you could, I hope not, but I made sure just to pipeline all my own stuff to kind of keep that ticking over so that business development was still going for me while I was taking compassionate leave. So obviously I knew I was going to have to take compassionate leave, which meant taking a real dent to my revenue. And I wanted to see if my business insurance would cover this. So I kind of went back through and looked over my policy, and it turns out you can only get payments for illness and death if you're the one who's caused it to someone else, which is really quite concerning and worrying. But it didn't look like there was anything that would cover compassionate leave for me. So I kind of went to HMRC and tried to look through what the policy is governmentally around compassionate leave pay, just to check to see whether there was any kind of government scheme. And it turns out that compassionate leave is at the employer's discretion. So your employer can choose whether or not you get paid leave for that thing. And if you were in-house or permanent, that would be kind of covered under your list of employee benefits that you would get as part of your remuneration package. So if you are a sole trader, you are fucked because you're not employed by a business. So I guess you just have to kind of take it on the chin and get on with it. I am a private limited company, so I am employed by myself to work in my company, and I chose to pay myself compassionate leave because of course I fucking did. Now, I've mentioned this before in my video on how I set up my freelance finances, but I basically have a massive financial buffer in my business account that I do not touch. I pay myself a set salary and a set amount of dividends every single month, irrespective of how much I earn, so that I can save any remainders in my business account for occasions such as this. So if you are your own employer, you've got to have that money there in order to pay yourself. Otherwise, I think you just have to get buggered, basically. If you have any extra information on this and you're watching, leave it in the comment section below. I did do some research, but I mean, obviously I wasn't in the soundest of mind at the time. I was pretty upset and worried, so there's every chance I could have missed something. But that's how it looked to me. Was not covered by business insurance. Hello, Editing Emma here. I just wanted to point out that my business insurance is through Hiscox. So maybe if you're with a different insurer or you have a different policy to what I have, perhaps compassionate leave is in fact covered by your business insurance. So don't forget to go back through your policy and double check this before writing it off entirely. This is just my experience. I forgot to mention Hiscox business insurance. That's what I have, and it wasn't covered. And there is kind of no government thing to help you. It's covered by your employer. So on the first day of compassionate leave after my mum passed away, I put my out of office on. I was like, look, I've suffered a family bereavement. I'll be off of work until early August, roughly. I'll aim to respond to messages here, but obviously it won't be instantly. And I thank you for your patience. Just so that people know what to expect. They understand why you've closed your doors and they're not just left hanging. They haven't messaged you and it's been 2 weeks and they've got no idea where you are. So that's what I did, and I think that this is where it comes in, where if you've experienced a sudden death, turn on that out of office. I know it's probably the last thing you're thinking of, but as a business owner, you've got to kind of keep that in your mind, fire off those emails, let people know what's happened. Reach out to your community, find that cover, or fire off a list of names to your clients. I mean, in an ideal world, when you're giving a referral, you would make sure that the person is free and wants the work. But if it's a really last minute thing, it's a dire situation, I would say just fire off a list of names to your clients and say, look, this is what's happened. You can go to these people for referrals, let them know what's happened. I'm going to be away for a few weeks while I get my shit together. I'm really sorry. Out of office on. Don't think about it anymore. Throughout my compassionate leave, I actually chose to keep working. But what I did was I would come in, have a really easy morning, and then I would clock off at lunchtime and then normally sleep for the rest of the day. I don't think I was prepared for how physical grief can be. I was so tired, unbelievably tired. I couldn't stop sleeping. I could hardly stay awake. And I think it's because I'd just spent the last however many months waiting in a state of grief, but not quite. Fucking hell, it's going to be really awkward if I cry on the internet. Adam Driver Burberry commercial. Adam Driver Burberry commercial. Oh yeah, that makes me feel better. That makes me feel better. So I chose to keep working because I have one particular client retainer that was really easy to maintain. It was just one blog post, one newsletter a week. I could manage that. It felt good to keep structure in my day because if I hadn't, I would have just stayed in bed. And I didn't want to do that. So it helped me keep structure in my day. I would get up, I would take things really, really easy. I would do a little bit of work and then clock off and that's it. And I did this for maybe 2 weeks. And then I kind of started to get back into work full time. But that's just how I felt. I really, really must stress as much time as you need. And I know everybody says that, take as much time as you need. Literally take as much time as you need, because there's nothing worse than trying to make yourself get back into a full regime of work when you are not 100%, your mind's not in the game, your work won't be good. And then what's the point of coming back if you're just going to put out substandard work? It's, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Give yourself more respect. Give yourself plenty of time. You will regret it. if you don't take that time to just be still, process it and heal. I know that grief is really awful. Nobody wants to have it. Nobody wants to do it, but you have to. You have to. So let yourself sink down into that horrible grief and just mourn like an absolute Victorian goth. And then finally, come back to work when you feel ready and be gentle. Stagger your workload. Manage the expectation. Tell people that you're going to need longer deadlines, and just make sure that you're gradually getting back into it rather than stacking your itinerary and trying to go full in. It won't go well for you. It will be too much. And you're probably going to need to spend a lot of time planning a funeral or a memorial service and checking in on relatives. So your time's going to be taken up. Mine fucking was. So, who's on the phone? Fuck off! This is not the time nor the place for you, my friend. Let's ignore the man speaking for now. Hopefully it doesn't pick up on the microphone. If it does, I'm gonna be furious. Okay, so that's it. That's this video. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please like it or share it. No, share it. If you know anyone that's going through a difficult time or potentially will be going through a difficult time in the future, share this video, please. I made it to be helpful, so let it be helpful. And with that, I'll see you back here, same time, same place in 2 weeks for more Kiss My A's. Take care and peace out.